Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and in this video today, I will be giving y'all my top 10 favorite characters in the Markiplier lore. So, I already did one of these top 10s, but specifically for Markiplier egos, so that's why in this list I cannot have anybody in the Markiplier lore who is actually played by Markiplier himself. It has to be played by some other person. And before you ask, no, Golden Freddy and Slenderman are not going to be a part of this list. They're not going to be counted, even though they are technically in the Markiplier lore because Wilfred Wolfstash interviews them. That doesn't count. So without further ado, let's start off with number 10. And number 10 is actually Lady from In Space with Markiplier. So besides having very bad luck with Vince, her character can be pretty funny at times, plus she does make a good antagonist throughout both parts of In Space with Markiplier. I like how she is an alien, and you can tell that she is an alien based off of her design, but also at the same time her design isn't too much alienish. It also still has a good amount of human to it, but without overdoing it to the point where you don't know whether she's an alien or not. I also like how she never actually ends up saying her own name. Like, everybody just calls her Lady because nobody knows her actual name. It kind of makes you wonder if it's important lore-wise, like as if name-dropping her would have some big reveal or something that's not supposed to be revealed yet. Either that or Markiplier just couldn't be bothered to come up with another name. So anyways, let's move on to number 9. And number 9 is actually the Bandit from In Space with Markiplier. Now, I actually really liked the Bandit character in both parts of In Space with Markiplier. So then you might be wondering, if I really liked the character, then why am I putting it only at number 9? Well, I feel like this character had a bit of wasted potential. Surely I'm not the only one who definitely started to see a trio coming into play whenever the Bandit joined you and Engineer Markiplier. But it doesn't feel like she was there for too much time. And she was in part 2 even less, although I don't think that one's as big of a deal, mainly because part 2 already explored so many other new things. But anyways, I just kind of feel like this character could have done so much more. But to be honest, that is my only complaint, and the only reason I have that complaint is because of how good of a character she is. I think she's a more unique and interesting character to be added into the Markiplier lore. I guess she also technically doesn't have a name since everybody calls her Bandit. But anyways, with that information out of the way, let's move on to number 8. And number 8 is the one, the only, Mac.
Problem, Captain!
Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say it right here, right now. I am 100% biased. I've been watching game theory and film theory and food theory for years. I am one of the biggest fans of MatPat you can find out there. So you won't believe how thrilled I was whenever I was first watching In Space with Markiplier Part 1 and 2 and got to see MatPat. And it's at this point that I have to remind myself that I am ranking Mac, not MatPat. And overall, Mac's character is really rude, condescending, and a control freak. Little cool fact about Mac, apparently Mac was originally supposed to be played by Jacksepticeye, but I'm getting off topic. One good thing about Mac is if something ever goes wrong, he definitely knows what he's doing, even if it does mean he takes control of everything. So all in all, even though Mac is definitely not the type of person you'd want to hang out with in real life, I do gotta give props to MatPat for doing a really good job playing him. MatPat definitely achieved what the goal was whenever coming up with this character. So anyways, let's move on to number 7. And number 7 is actually Celsi. So hopefully I actually get her name right, because I can never seem to actually pronounce the name correctly. Shout out to Amazing Purple Girl helping me out with pronouncing this name, because I can never seem to get it right. Hopefully I can get it right today. But pretty much Celsi has the same benefits as Mac, where she knows what to do in a bad or stressful situation. Except unlike Mac, she's actually nice to you. but not Engineer Mark. I do think the kind of childish-like rivalry between Celsi and Engineer Mark is pretty funny throughout both parts of In Space with Markiplier. And while you have Gunther and Markiplier who just wants to explode everything they see, she's actually like keeping them under control and like making sure that the ship is like all safe and okay. So overall, she's a pretty cool and mature character. So with that said, let's move on to number 6. And number 6 is actually Wigg. Wigg is one of the funniest characters in Space with Markiplier. The main reason he's pretty funny is because he doesn't really know English, so then whenever he does like start to translate stuff that y'all are saying and that he's saying, and he tries to speak English to you, it comes out pretty funny. And that clip I just showed you turns out being him just asking if y'all want anything to eat. But it comes out hilarious, especially with how big and threatening he looks. I mean, come on, man, who doesn't like Wigg? I think it is literally impossible to not like Wigg's character. He's just one of those characters where the voice doesn't really fit the character's body, but I think it works in his favor, because I just think that it makes him more of a lovable character. But halfway through, coming in at number 5, we got Bert. Now, Bert is amazing. Why? Because he's Bert, that's why. He is literally one of the most random, funniest, lovable characters in all of In Space with Markiplier. And it's literally just Bert being Bert. I don't know how else to explain it. One second he's saying that you should back the ship up in reverse, and the next second he's literally having a vision of the future. He's such a random and hilarious character, you can never predict what his next move is. Plus, the whole backer in reverse idea he has is just one of the most funniest parts of In Space with Markiplier. So with that said, let's move on to number 4. Now, number 4 is actually the first one on this list that isn't originally from In Space with Markiplier, and that will be Chef. Chef has been a part of the Markiplier lore for years, and his personality is definitely different than most of the other Markiplier characters. I would not want to be left alone in a room with him. Based on his kind of psychopathic but very serious-like personality, I'm willing to bet that he's killed at least a couple people. Yet, he's still one of those characters that whenever you see him get a cameo, you end up cheering with excitement. His character's first appearance goes all the way back to 2017. He is one of the oldest Markiplier characters that is not a Markiplier alter ego. I do plan to make a theory all about Chef at some point in time, but it's most likely not going to be until a while. But anyways, let's move on to number 3. So going back to In Space with Markiplier, number 3 is Gunther. So Gunther is actually played by Mick, who's the same person who plays the detective, and Mick is an awesome actor. Besides Markiplier himself, if I had to choose one person to be my favorite actor in the whole Markiplier lore, it would be Mick. Anything he does related to the Markiplier lore is always amazing, and his role as Gunther is no exception. Gunther is definitely the coolest crew member out of all of the people on the Invincible 2. He's really cool, he likes to explode things, he likes to shoot things. What more do you want in a character? I also like the kind of duo between him and Engineer Markiplier. I think both of them fit well with each other, especially considering their personalities and how they both love to blow up everything. And no, I am not talking about in a sexual way. I mean more of like a friendship. Come on now guys, not everything has to be gay. But as you guys can tell from the thumbnail and from the obvious lack of a certain other character up until this point, we'll continue talking about Mick later into the video. But for now, let's move on to number 2. And number 2 is Celine. Now Celine is very important to the Markiplier lore. Not just because of the fact that she's one of the 2 souls that goes on to be Darkiplier, which I seem to say in almost every Markiplier video I make, but she's also important because of what she does off camera. I'm not going to go into too much detail because this isn't a theory video, but pretty much Celine is the twin sister of Damien, and she was dating actor Mark before she started cheating on him and instead was dating the Colonel for a period of time. So you could say that she definitely has her own unique role in the Markiplier lore, but what about her personality, like character-wise and stuff? What about all that? Well, since she is older than Damien by a little bit of time, she tends to be the leader in most scenarios, and also she tends to be very protective over her little brother. But with that said, I think it's time to move on to number 1. Based off of who the remaining non-Markiplier played characters are, I feel like y'all can guess who number 1 is. Especially if you've seen my past theory videos, you should know this already. Number 1 is Abe the detective. I told you we'd be talking more about Mick. I said it before in this video and I'll say it again. Mick is an amazing actor. So that, combined with one of my favorite rivalries / duos in the Markiplier lore being Wilfred Wolfstache versus the detective, makes the detective my favorite non-Markiplier played character that is featured in the Markiplier lore. Abe is amazing, and I know I might be a bit biased about this because my first introduction into the Markiplier lore years ago was Who Killed Markiplier and Wilfred Mother-Loving Wolfstache. Those two were my first videos I've watched about the Markiplier lore, but still, even when I'm not biased, the detective is just so good of a character. There is never a dull moment when the detective is on screen. He just perfectly captures the kind of detective, old-timey like atmosphere, while at the same time just being outright hilarious. Plus, Wilfred Mother-Loving Wolfstache, the video that's just as much about Abe as it is for Wilfred, is one of the most perfect Markiplier lore videos out there. But with all that said, thank y'all for watching, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will be seeing y'all in the next video. Goodbye.